Today's episode is on reality checks on some false propaganda from an inevitable split. A document on state-sponsored ethnic cleansing in Manipur 2023. Published by Kuki Student Organization and Zomi Student Federation on May 2023. Reality checks on false propaganda. Amidst the current state-sponsored ethnic cleansing of the Kuki people, there is in circulation a lot of false information and biased narratives, peddled by the state-controlled and blatantly communal impulse-based media. These circulations have ensured that the full picture of the conflict and the nature of the atrocities and crimes that are committed against innocent civilians remain hidden from the eyes and ears of the national public. The state media is not neutral, and neither is their intent. However, almost in a defiant manner, the ground realities of the conflict and the nature of the violence have unfolded on their own, and in its own time. One of the important shifts in the unraveling of the conflict has been the delicate disclosing of the truth, especially from the ground and based on the victims' first-hand accounts. Let's see some of the false media allegations on which clarification based on facts is due. In other words, a reality check. Ethnic cleansing as religious conflict. The fake news 1. The propaganda. This distorted narrative originates from those extremists, Medes, responsible for the public murder of innocent tribal civilians and arson of countless churches and private properties in the capital city, Imphal in Manipur state. The background. At the core of this conflict is a historical contention over land and resources dating back to pre-colonial and colonial era. The aggressive policies of the modern Manipur government, which unapologetically caters to serve the majority Meitei sentiments and continually obstruct the constitutional rights of hill tribes, is at its root. The declaration of reserved or protected forests over Kuki's lands and the demand for Skichla tribe status by the advanced Meitei community who already enjoy reservations under Schedule Cas. Other backward classes and economic weaker section quota, both of which were creative attempts to claim Kuki's inhabited lands, were the major causes underlying the current hostilities. The truth. Number 1. The conflict is an ethnic conflict between two ethnic groups. The Kukis and the Meitei Valley community are two major ethnic communities of Manipur state. They are distinguished by major differences in culture, social organization, and language. Religious difference is not a credible criterion to understand these differences, as a sizable population of the Meiteis themselves are either Sanamahist Meitei animist traditional religion, Muslims, and also Christians. Number 2. People were targeted not on the basis of religion, but ethnicity. Nagas, the other major ethnic community in Manipur, are mostly Christians and live among the Meitei. Yet not a single Naga was targeted or harmed, and their churches were spared. There are many followers of the Hindu faith in Kuki inhabited areas like Lamkachura Champur district, Moray and Kangway Kompakpi, who originate from North India and other regions, and not a single person from these communities were harmed. Hindu places of worship in Kuki areas, including those of the Meiteis, were left intact. Number 3. Meiteis are not exclusively Hindu. Traditionally, Meiteis are proud followers of the Sanamahi religion, their ethnic animist religion before their mass conversion into Vaishnavite Hinduism. The Hindu Meitei population today account for about 40% of the Manipur population, while the Sanamahi followers account for only up to 8% of the same. Adherents of the Sanamahi religion are predominantly anti-Hindu and proudly champion what they call the Kongli Pak flag or Salite Tarat Fira, flag of the 7 clans against the national flag of India. The rise of militant Meiteism is closely linked to the revivalism and resurgence of their Sanamahi religion. The Chief Minister N. Biren Singh and Maharaj Lashemba Sana Jalba, Member of Parliament Rajya Sabha, are committed to the revival of Sanamahi faith, rather than the promotion of Hinduism in Manipur state. There is also a substantial Christian population among the Meiteis and Meitei Muslim population, who follow the Islamic faith and account for over 8% of the Manipur population. Number 4. The anti-Hindu Meitei community. In a bizarre and devious ploy, Meiteis are suddenly projecting their Hindu in an attempt to manipulate the emotional support of the national Hindu population, who are often otherwise not aware of the complexities of the ethnic contentions and conflict in the region. However, it is impossible to forget the Meitei's long history of persecuting Hindus from other parts of India. Recently, the Chief Minister in Biren Singh admitted in the state legislature that 20 non-locals, meaning Hindus from other states, were killed between 2017 and 2022 by extremist Meitei groups. No action has been taken, even after this admission. In a case of blatant xenophobia, extremist Meitei outfits have banned the screening of Hindi films as early as the 1980s. The much-hyped Bollywood movie Mary Kom could not be screened in Manipur despite Mary Kom hailing from the state. They have also banned the teaching and use of Hindi language since the 1980s. The prolonged and violent demand for inner-line permit in the late 2000s is a clear message that Meiteis want absolutely nothing to do with Hindus from outside the state. The inner-line permit requires outsiders, especially mainland Hindus, to obtain a special pass to enter the state. The plea for sympathy from Hindus is not genuine at all. It is an attempt to put the issue on a false premises and deceive the public. It is a covert attempt to divert public and national attention from their ethnic cleansing pogrom against the Kukis in Manipur state. What they have ultimately achieved is the maligning of Hinduism as a whole, and Sanatana Dharma in particular, a nonviolent religion that has been a pillar of unity in diversity since time immemorial days. Number 5. Meitei anti-national politics over the decade. From the early 1980s, the Meiteis and their militant groups have been inoffensive against the Indian Army in an attempt to achieve their own sovereign nation-state called Kanglepak Nation. Some of the methods and tactics used include ambushing the Indian Army, attacking their camps, and hurling of grenades in convoy. From the early 1990s, Meitei militants and armed groups started the killing of poor Hindu laborers, and have also started targeted killing of Hindu businessmen in the Imphal areas, both through cold-blooded murder and through bomb blasts. Attacks on the CRPF and ambush on the Indian Army continued to this day. In the late 1990s, the kidnapping of and monetary demands made from Hindu businessmen in Imphal Valley was on the rise. Hundreds of bomb blasts occurred in the Hindu localities in Imphal Valley. The casualties during this period also included many migrant Hindu workers, especially Biharis from the neighboring regions from early 2000. The Meitei terrorist groups shifted their operation base to Myanmar, Burma, and have been assaulting the tribal population that inhabited the border regions of Indo-Myanmar Burma. The landmines that they planted in Churachandpur district, Chandel and Tendupal district in Manipur led to the loss of many innocent tribal life, with many more maimed for the rest of their life. They have also carried out many ambushes of Indian Army security forces in Churachandpur and Chandel areas, and have used these attacks to ensure Armed Forces Special Power Act remains in the Kuki regions. The latest ambush of security forces by the Meitei extremist groups in Churachandpur include the killing of Commanding Officer 46 Assam Rifle Colonel V, his wife, and his 5-year-old son. Number 6. The influence of secessionist movements elements on the state government. Although the valley-based insurgent groups are outrightly secessionist outfits that strongly reject Indian nationality and the Constitution of India, they continue to exert strong influence and hold on the state government. These outfits call for a statewide boycott of every Independence Day and Republic Day celebration every year. The nexus between the government and Valley-based insurgent groups is well known to security officials who once exposed it in the past. It is mentioned that the secessionist undergrounds get their percentage share directly from the state budget. Emerging extremist groups, like Arambai Tengal, champion the separatist Kanglai Pek flag and reject both the Indian national flag and their conversion to Hinduism. There are video evidences of them burning the Indian national flag when this current conflict broke out. On the other hand, the Kuki militant groups under the suspension of operation have always accepted Indian nationhood and the Constitution of India. They are the only armed outfits in the Northeast demanding their due protection and rights under the Constitution of India. The sudden labeling of the Kuki people as illegal immigrants and refugees started gaining significance when N. Biren Singh became Chief Minister of Manipur State. This was followed by the maligning and characterizing of the entire Kuki people as poppy cultivators, which became a popular narrative, especially when the Chief Minister, his wife, and some of his ministers were named in one of the largest drug busts in Manipur State. The declaration of Kuki's areas as reserve forests, protected forests, wetlands and sanctuaries without following due procedure, or consulting the constitutionally constituted Hill Areas Committee, and stakeholders triggered the eventual outbreak of the conflict in Manipur State. The Chief Minister, along with the radicalized elements of Meitei communities, have joined forces to systematically wipe out the Kuki inhabitants from their lands. The fake news to poppy cultivation in Manipur State. Tribals in Manipur, particularly the Kuki communities in Manipur State, are engaged extensively in poppy cultivation. This has been the narrative that was led by the current Chief Minister, M. Biren Singh, which led to the building up of a dangerous communalist sentiment and vilifying of the Kuki community. This is criminal defamation and merits legal action under the Indian Penal Code, Code of Criminal Procedure, and various Indian laws. The truth. Truth number 1. Poppy cultivation is carried out all over Manipur State. Those culpable come from different communities, not just the Kuki communities. Poppy cultivation is rampant all over Manipur State, and all communities including Meiteis and Nagas are equally culpable as cultivators. Some places where poppy cultivation were recently exposed include Ringwai Village in Ukhrul District, Shangful Village in Ukhrul District, and Kabung Village in Senapati District, which are non-Kuki villages. In fact, it is the Kuki civil society organizations and groups under SU, that is Kuki National Organization, Himar People's Convention, etc., who openly denounce poppy plantation in the hills. Cultivators of poppy are in fact mere cogs in this poppy machinery, as are other cultivators. They are more akin to laborers working under large poppy contractors. In fact, as per the website of Manipur Police, Narcotic and Affairs of Border, most of the opium manufacturing plants are located in the valley districts such as Thaubal and Bishnupur district. Truth number 2. The poppy business is actually controlled and sustained by the Manipur Valley-based drug kingpins, and they are closely linked to the current political leadership. The real kingpins who control, facilitate, and sustain the poppy business in Manipur are actually Valley-based individuals who have close ties to the political leadership at Impulse City. Only recently, the Special Cell of Delhi Police busted the Atocha International Drug Cartel, which is owned and operated by individuals belonging to the Meitei Valley community. In one of the biggest drug busts made by MPS officer Brinda Thun, the Chief Minister of Manipur N. Biren Singh and some of his ministers were personally named in the case, with the arrested drug smuggler revealed to be the right-hand man of the CM's wife. The much publicized war on drugs is merely the Chief Minister's attempt at public image management. Number 3. The false narrative of poppy cultivation is a carefully developed ploy to ultimately snatch Kuki lands. The false narrative of poppy cultivation is a ploy to snatch the lands of the Kuki communities for the majority Meitei community. The chief minister, who has been leading the narrative that the Kuki people are poppy cultivators, had stated during the inauguration of Muvkanur Phase 3 in Impal City. The villages where poppy cultivation is found will be derecognized. The idea is that the land will pass on to the hands of the government, who can then hand it out to anyone it chooses. Whether such a proposal can stand the test of legal validity is of course doubtful. Who were the victims? Meitei's are Kuki's communities. The fake news 3. Meiteis are being attacked by tribals from the Kuki community. The armed groups under suspension of operation are responsible for these attacks. The Assam Rifles and other central paramilitary forces have joined forces with these Sioux groups and are complicit in this violence against the Meitei. The truth. Truth number 1. Extremist Meitei groups have systematically planned this ethnic cleansing beforehand. They are the aggressor, and they have the full support of the state government. The Arambai Tangold, an extremist Meitei organization openly linked to the chief minister Mbayan Singh and Karan Rajya Sabha MP from Manipur Lasimba, led this ethnic cleansing of the Kuki people in Manipur state. They were allowed to freely take sophisticated firearms from the armories of various police stations in Impal City, including police training center at Pangai, and use them to assault innocent Kuki civilians. The extent to which this ethnic cleansing was pre-planned is only starting to unravel. Months back, Kuki's residents of various localities in Impal City were quite perplexed when young men claiming to be sent by the government, but who did not show any proof of identification, arrived and started making inquiries on which houses belonged to the Kuki communities. They marked the gates of these houses with red paint. The confused residents, who were taking shelter in relief camps, now realized with a shock what this activity was about. It was to mark the houses belonging to the Kuki communities, so they could be specifically targeted when the ethnic cleansing begins. The plan clearly worked, as all Kuki houses in Impal have been set ablaze now. The only action taken by the Kuki communities was that of self-defense, as heavily armed Meitei groups have been assaulting Kuki villages. The indefeasible proof of this is to look at the body count. The death and injury list are majorly from the Kuki community. Majority of the private properties destroyed and villages burned belong to the Kuki tribes. Any independent verification will reveal this. Within the Kuki inhabited towns and villages, no innocent Meitei civilians were harmed. The worst they saw was internal displacement. On the other hand, there is ample visual video recordings and documentary including first-hand account evidence to prove that even innocent Kuki civilians were targeted by the organized and armed Meitei mob. Number 2. It was the Kuki villagers who organized themselves for self-defense that the media dishonestly projected as cadres of the Sioux groups. With repeated attempts by Meitei armed groups to storm tribal villages, villagers from the Kuki villagers near Meitei-dominated areas have organized themselves into self-defense forces, and a few of them are armed with rudimentary hunting rifles. It is these civilian men that the state-controlled, Impal-based media falsely label as cadres of the Sioux groups, doctoring images and videos to force their narratives. Truth number 3. The Assam Rifles and other central paramilitary forces helped bring about a cessation to this ethnic cleansing. Violence subsided once they were deployed. Before the central paramilitary forces were deployed, the Arambai Tangal and other extremist Meitei groups had free hand to lynch innocent Kuki civilians, even in broad daylight and in full public view. There is ample video and photo evidence of this. The central paramilitary forces helped to stop the state-sponsored ethnic cleansing. It was under their supervision that stranded Kukis in Impal were evacuated safely to the Kuki districts. In fact, some Meitei officers in these army allegedly misused their power to aid and abet these extremist Meitei groups. A Meitei officer of the Assam Rifle, namely Major Y. Singh of 33 AR, was understood to have aided the Meitei mob in burning Bongbol Kalan, a Kuki village on the 4th of May, 2023. Another Meitei officer of 16 Assam Rifle, Major Rahul Singh, was also seen to have sided with the Meitei extremists group. Number 4. The fake news circulated are a result of a malicious disinformation campaign by the Impul-based news media, who represent communal Meitei interests and are controlled by the state government. The state government order on the banning of mobile data and broadband was enforced in a partisan manner. Impul-based news media like ISTV, Impact TV, and Tom TV, who are controlled by the state government, were given uninterrupted internet access, so they can continue to circulate fake news and communally charged information. They have been twisting facts and circulating false information in favor of the Meitei's community and to vilify the Kukis communities. Only recently, ISTV shamefully labeled a Kukis dialect, spoken by a recognized tribe in Manipur, as a Myanmarese dialect, and was forced to issue a public apology due to public outrage. Further, the Impul-based news media already have established a monopoly on the news and information that goes out of the state to the national and international media community, specifically on account of patronage by the state government. Hence, their fake news gets amplified over the first-hand accounts of tribal victims, which are continually sidelined. Local media in Kukis areas lack state patronage, and hence they are systematically curbed. Neither is connectivity to the outside world made available to them. Even many national and international media persons who come to Manipur state are closely monitored, and many attempts were made to compromise their neutrality by the state government and valley-based groups. Manipur Hills versus Valley. Much has been said about the Hill-Valley divide in Manipur state. But recently there has been a great politicization of the issue, and this was accompanied by the spread of blatantly false and misleading information. Primarily this has come from valley-based media and political actors with vested interest in championing a particular narrative, as it is key to accomplish their goal of taking over Kuki's land and resources. The fake news tribals live in 90% of the land, while Meiteis live only in 10% of the land, and are therefore disadvantaged. Meiteis cannot settle in tribal lands. They are confined to only 10% of the geographical area of Manipur state. The valley districts are becoming congested, and there is therefore a need to extend settlements to the hills. The truth of the matter will be presented in a tabular form for easy comparison and understanding. 1. Comparison of geographical area. Hills 90%. Valley 10%. Settlement rights. Hills all communities. There is in fact a sizable Meitei population in hill areas. Meitei colonies are a common feature in hill towns like Lamka, Churachempur, and Kangui Kongpokpi district. Valley. All communities. There are tribal colonies in Impul Valley, but only few Kukis can afford to settle here due to high living costs. 3. Buying lands, hills, permitted to all under due procedure. The only restriction is that the prospective buyer of land who is a non-ST has to take approval from the district council and the deputy commissioner concerned. Valley permitted to all under due procedure. 4. Land productivity. Hills, very low, infertile. Hilly and inhospitable. Valley, highly productive, fertile, plain area, and conducive to living. 5. Mode of farming. Hills, shifting, cultivation, which is labor-intensive, non-remunerative, and requires larger areas to maintain the jump cycle. Valley settled or permanent farming, which can be done in small areas. This is highly remunerative, and the government provides immense support in terms of capital and subsidies. 6. Reasons. 4. Congestions. Hills. Declaration of reserve forests, protected forests, wildlife, sanctuary, national parks, etc. If rules of these frameworks were to be implemented, there will no longer be sufficient land for the habitation and livelihood of Kukis. Kukis are predominantly agriculturalist people. However, as the hills are characterized by low fertility and inhospitable terrain, they also depend on forest produce as a part of their sustenance. Valley overconcentration of government institutions and offices, educational, technical and medical institutions, infrastructures, projects, etc. In the Impal Valley. 7. The people. Hills. Tribals. Low income. Low social status. And suffering from decades of institutional and systemic injustice. Valley General Schedule Caste OBC, Advanced Community. High income groups, with disproportionate control over political power and economic resources. 8. Protections available to the people. Hills, the tribals are protected by Article 371C. But the hill areas. Committee formed under it is only a recommendatory body, and therefore ultimately powerless. Valley. The Mighties have 40 out of 60 total seats in the state legislature, a disproportionate share as they account for just half of the total population. The state not only protects their culture, language, and political interests, but also imposes it on other communities of the state. A babel of fake news and disinformation campaigns. Maite MLA Nishikan, Sapam, on the wire. Most of the information and facts spewed by Maite spokespersons are based on fabricated facts, distorted histories, and simply self-contradictory ideas. They often do not stand in the face of preliminary fact-check and logical examination. A case in point. Maite Amala Nishikant Sapam sat down for an interview with noted anchor Karan Thapar and delivered all the major arguments deployed by Métis community. But none of these arguments stood when tested on the anvil of facts and reason. Some of these will be highlighted, along with brief commentaries to understand the context and implications. Unscheduled tribe status of Métis. Karan Thapar, are you claiming that Métis were scheduled tribes before the merger into India? Nishikant Sapam, yes, absolutely. Karan Thapar, but who recognized them as scheduled tribes? Because the scheduled tribe tag didn't exist in British Indian days. Nishikant Sapam, we were the same kind of people. Karan Thapar, but the ST tag didn't exist before independence. Nishikant Sapam, it did. Karan Thapar, it came into being with the Constitution. A core argument given by Maite groups, including the Scheduled Tribe Demand Committee. Manipur, is that Maitais were STs before independence. But Karan Thapar here pointed out clearly that the constitutional ST category, including all associated benefits of positive discrimination, did not exist before independence. Nishikant Sapam tried to course correct by saying that Kukis and Métis were the same kind of people. But a few minutes later, he contradicted himself by saying that we Métis don't have similarity with the Kukis. The truth of the matter is that Métis have always despised and looked down upon the Kukis, calling them how much a derogatory terms. This attitude persists, except that now they are willing to be clubbed in the same category as the people they despised, in order to reap economic benefits on reservations. Nishikant Sapam, all the IAs and even the state services are hogged by people with scheduled tribe quota. Karan Thapar, but the schedule? Case and scheduled tribe quota is a fixed percentage. Nishikant Sapam, very few Métis get into the Indian Administrative Service. Karan Thapar, Métis qualify for the other backward class quota, which is 27%. Nishikant Sapam, but Sketcha tribes always takes the chunk of jobs. Karan Thapar, but how can this be? The scheduled tribe quota is separate to the other backward class quota. Nishikant Sapam, Cookies are hogging all the top posts, Karen Thopper. But cookies can only benefit from the Schedule Tribe quota, and the Schedule Tribe quota is only 7%. The truth is that Mighties are cornering all the available jobs and opportunities in Manipur state. All developmental works and government institutions are concentrated in the Imphal Valley, and a quick glance at any results of any recruitment exams in the state will show that 80 to 90% of the vacancies are filled by Meitei candidates at disproportionate shares. On the issue of illegal immigration, Nishikant Sapam. How can the Kuki population, which was only 1% in Manipur in 1902, rise up to 29% in 2022? Karan Thapar, it's not. The official statistic says it's 14%. An amateurish ploy used by Mitis is to simply spew out blatantly false facts and information, hoping that their listeners are too simple to fact-check. But such a tactic cannot work in Karen Thapar's court, who is always ready with the correct facts. The truth of the matter is that there is no credible demographic data of Manipur, dating back to 1901. Most parts of the hill areas were inaccessible and inhabited by tribes who had not come under firm administrative control of the British government. Here is the Census of India report for Churakanpur district. It adds a note. Due to lack of data, population of districts from 1901 to 1941 shown as not available. Interestingly, the document also noted the population of Manipur state of Senapati district by sex includes the estimated population of Malmer on the Manipuri identity. Nishikant Sapam, will you please put your shoes in the shoes of the Manipuris people once upon a time? This land was ours, Mighties, and we are now restricted to just 9%. Karen Thapar, but the cookies are Manipuris too. Note that Nishikant Sapam had already stated that the Mighties don't have similarity with Kuki. It may surprise an external observer that Kuki's communities of Manipur are considered by Mighties to not be Manipuri's people. But this condition has always been clear to Kuki's communities who experience this alienation on a daily basis. When people speak of a Manipuri identity, culture, and language, we simply speak of a Meitei identity, culture, and language. The state protects and promotes Meitei identity and interests, and imposes it on other communities of Manipur state. And it is quite true. The Kukis people have never been part of the Manipur kingdom, and instead have always had their independent principalities. That is why they have never fitted into the idea of a Manipuri people. Hence, given that both Metis and Kukis people acknowledge that they are different political entities, the natural course should be that the Kuki people are given a separate administration, free from Meitei Manipur hegemony. On the territorial integrity of Manipur, Nishikant Sapam, I as an MLA of the government of Manipur, have taken an oath to safeguard the integrity of Manipur. This too is a blatant lie. The oath to be taken by a member of Legislative Assembly is provided in the third schedule to the Constitution of India. A member of Legislative Assembly takes oath to uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India and not that of a particular state. In fact, as per Article 3 of the Constitution of India, the Indian Parliament can form new states and alter existing boundaries by law, that too with a simple majority of votes. India is called an indestructible union of destructible states, precisely because Parliament can form new states or union territories to accommodate regional and ethnic diversity that enriches and strengthens the nation's fabric. It is quite easy, legally and procedural speaking, to create a separate administration for the Kukis' inhabited areas. Fake news, information, and pictures circulated by extremist Mighties, Meitei extremists and fundamentalist groups, aided by Imphal-based media, have been circulating intentionally fabricated information to stoke communal sentiments and instigate more violence against Kukis. Many renowned and well-known personalities from the Meitei community have also joined the bandwagon of lies, despite being the aggressors and perpetrators of one of the most inhumane pogrom in Manipur's history. The Mighties are doing all they possibly can to play the victim card. In some of the most blatantly shameless collective actions any community could fashion, they have sought to alter the narratives through a quantitative surge of fake news and reporting. Even some of the supposedly influential Meitei celebrities have been involved in spreading misleading information and abusing the platform they are privy to. These includes Lusupriya Kunguyam, child environmental activist, Soma Leshram, actress, Thauna Yamstrula, Luang Famina, Miss India, second runner-up, Robert Naoram, acclaimed designer, among others. However, despite all their might and attempt to spread false and fabricated information, their effort seems to be counterproductive. To their own dismay, it has frequently backfired and worked against their interest. Let's see a few samples of the many lies that have been debunked and proven false by factual refutation and information. Beyond their sensationalized appeal, burning of our national flag. Extremist Meitei groups burned the Indian national flag immediately after the peaceful protest organized by tribals only, because the Kukis had shown allegiance to the national flag during the protest by displaying it proudly. But some Meiteis had circulated this video as Kukis burning the national flag. The truth is quite easy to decipher, as the persons in the video were speaking in the Meitei language and bluntly stating the reason for burning the national flag. Protest in Jantar Mantar, New Delhi. Meitei protesters in Jantar Mantar printed a large photo of a woman with facial injuries. They claim is a Meitei woman physically assaulted by Kukis. But people were quick to notice that they stole the photo from a recent domestic abuse case in Arunachal Pradesh state, the case of the Meitei doctor and his daughter. News information was circulated widely about a Meitei doctor being trashed and his daughter being sexually assaulted in Churachandpur district by Kukis communities some days later. The doctor himself came live on Impact News, an Impul Vala-based media, to inform the public that all this information are fake and to rebuke those who were stoking communal flames in his and his daughter's name. But the damage was done. Many Kukis girls bore the brunt of this deliberate misinformation, as many faced actual sexual assault, supposedly in retribution from the crimes allegedly committed by their fellow tribesmen. Langal burning in Imphal city. So-called child climate activist, Lusupriya Kunguyam, a Meitei herself, posted a video on social media stating that Kukis are burning Meitei houses. But in actuality, the village that is being burnt in the video is Langal village, which is inhabited by the Kukis communities. The attack and arson of the village was carried out by the extremist Meitei group Rambai Tengal in collusion with the Manipur police commandos. But Lusupriya may not be the right person to blame, as it is well known that her parents are actually the ones operating her social media accounts, and her father is in fact an infamous absconding fugitive. Violence against Meiteis in Mizoram state. To get the sympathy of the Indian public, Meitei social media users claimed that Meitei civilians were attacked in Mizoram state. The Mizoram police stepped in immediately to debunk this false information. Rape in Churachandpur district. Extremist Meiteis, in an attempt to recruit more Meiteis into their fold, spread a fake news that Meitei women were being raped in Churachandpur district. The Director General of Police of Manipur stepped in to announce that no rape incident occurred in Churachandpur district. In fact, till date, no innocent Meitei civilians in Churachandpur district are harmed, and Meiteis were provided protection by the local Kuki women, as covered widely in the news media, in yet another malicious attempt to deceive other Meiteis and persuade them to join in the cause of ethnic cleansing. Extremist Meiteis circulated a fake news that the dead bodies of 37 Meitei rape victims, along with that of a 7-year-old child, were lying in the morgue of Shija Hospital. Shia Hospital, owned by Meitei businessmen, flatly denied this claim. But much damage was already done due to this fake news, as many innocent Kuki civilians were consequently lynched in the streets of Imphal, in broad daylight and in full public view. next episode on The Only Way Forward is separate administration. Thanks for watching and listening.